Welcome to the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a landmark episode of History, Hounds, and Happy Campers. I'm Amanda, your lead history detective, map reader, and the person who gets genuinely emotional over 250-year-old adobe bricks.
And I'm Laura, also known as Mom. I handle the logistics, the campsite, snacks, and the happy camper side of things, making sure we find the best spots to park the rig while we're hunting down California's secrets.
If you're joining the pack for the first time, our mission is to prove that every mile of the road is a story waiting to be told. We travel over the country in RV to find the intersection of history and the modern outdoor lifestyle. We are the bridge between the past and the open road.
We currently are operating out of our base camp in California, and we have a very special update. Our Great Pyrenees Lua is officially 10 months old.
At 10 months old, she's roughly 90 pounds of white fluff and the guardian instinct. She's currently in her teenage phase. I mean, she thinks she's the boss of the campsite, but she's actually just the world's most adorable speed bump. She's a true history hound, even in her favorite part of history is napping in the shade of a historical landmark.
So today we are bringing you to a massive exploration of the mission San Luis Obispo de Tolsa. It's the 5th mission in the California chain and a place that literally saved the entire mission system from starvation.
Before we dive into the Valley of the Bears, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button and follow our channel. It keeps the tires turning and the research coming. Now let's step back into 1772. The Hunger and the Hunt, 1769 to 1772. To understand why this mission exists, we have to talk about a near disaster. In the early 1770s, the first 4 California missions, San Diego, Monterey, San Antonio, and San Gabriel, were failing. Supply ships from Mexico were being delayed by storms and bad luck. The Padres and soldiers were literally starving. Mom, did you know they were eating nothing but peas and corn for months?
That sounds like a happy camper meal after you realize you forgot to go to the grocery store.
Exactly. But enter Captain Pedro Vegas. In 1772, he remembered a place he had seen during the Portola expedition a few years prior, a lush valley filled with a staggering number of grizzly bears. He held a hunting expedition to the La Canada de los Osos, the Valley of the Bears. Fages and his men spent 3 months hunting. They killed over 30 grizzlies, sending thousands of pounds of dried meat back to the northern missions. This act of survival saved the mission system, and Father Juno Sierra realized that a valley capable of supporting so many bears was the perfect place for a mission.
On September 1st, 1772, Father Sierra raised a cross and celebrated the first Mass, Mission San Luis Obispo de Tolosa, named after St. Louis, the 13th century bishop of Toulouse, France. The mission was strategically placed halfway between the north and south.
If you look at most California missions today, they have beautiful red roof tiles, but in the beginning, they were all thatched with dried grass. This was a huge problem in San Luis Obispo. Local tribes, who were understandably resistant to the Spanish presence, realized that the mission was essentially a giant tinderbox. They began firing burning arrows into the thatched roofs.
The mission burned down 3 times in its first decade.
The Padres had to innovate. Taking a cue from Spanish architecture back home, they began molding clay over their thighs to create semi-cylindrical tiles. They fired them in kilns until they were rock hard. San Luis Obispo became the first mission in California to have a red tiled roof. It was a survival tactic that became an iconic California look. Mission San Luis Obispo is unique for its layout. Most missions are built in a perfect quadrangle, a square of buildings around a central courtyard. However, San Luis Obispo, the church is part of an L-shaped design. The church, it's unusually narrow and long. The belfry, unlike the massive stone towers of Mission Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo features a simpler 3-bell Campaniano bell wall. It has 3 bells in the front and 2 on the side.
Yes. The L-shape wasn't an accident. The Padres had to adapt to the creek and the slope of the land. It's a great lesson for us RVers. Sometimes you have to adapt your setup to the terrain.
In the 1830s, the Mexican government secularized the missions, meaning the land was taken from the church and given to private citizens as land grants. This was the dark ages for the mission. It was sold off for just $510. At one point, the beautiful buildings were used as a courthouse, a jail, and even a general store. The gardens were overgrown, and the adobe walls began to melt back into the earth.
It wasn't until the 1930s that the massive restoration began under Father John Harnett. They stripped away the New England-style wooden siding that had been added to the Victorian era and returned the mission to its original Spanish California roots.
Today, the Mission San Luis Obispo is not just a museum, it's in the beating heart of downtown San Luis Obispo. The Mission Plaza, this is one of the best people-watching spots in California. The city has turned the area into a beautiful park with the San Luis Creek running through it. The museum, you can see original Chumash artifacts, Spanish vestments, and the actual tools used to make the first tile roofs. The church is still an active parish. When you walk inside, the walls are nearly 4 feet thick, providing a natural air conditioning that keeps it cool even in the heat of the summer. Happy camper tip, parking a rig in downtown in slow can be tricky. We recommend parking at the Madonna Inn or in the nearby transit centers and taking a quick ride share onto the plaza. We left our rig at the RV park and drove there for the day.
Here's a Lua update. Lua loved to walk along the creek because it's right in the center of the town. There are plenty of dog-friendly patios nearby where you can grab a tri-tip sandwich, a local staple, while your history hound naps at your feet.
She especially liked the bridges and the gum wall.
She loved the gum wall. She thinks she had to smell every piece of gum that was on the gum wall. A little gross.
Mission San Luis Obispo is a story of resilience. It survived starvation, fire, and neglect. It stands today because the community decided that the past was worth saving.
Whether you're here to see the first red tiles in California or just enjoy the peaceful atmosphere of the creek, this mission is a must-see on any California road trip.
Thank you for joining the pack for this deep dive. We hope this inspires you to go out and find the Bear Valleys in your own neck of the woods.
Please like and follow History Hounds and Happy Campers. We're growing every day, and we want you to grow with us for every mile of this journey.
Keep your history deep and your trails happy.
And we'll see you on the next ridge.
Bye.
Bye.